Grandmothers and grandfathers are called by many names nowadays. Before, they only had the choice of lola or lolo. Ngayon, ang dami ng tawag sa kanila. Oo. I wonder what that is all about. Maybe because lola and lolo, they connotate old age. So you can call them now wawa, wowo, pops, mops, lala, lele. Ang dami ng tawag in order to avoid any semblance of old age siguro. Pero you know, when I got close with my grandmother, she was young. And I was kind of disappointed because I wanted an old-looking grandmother. Sabi ko, Lola, ba't hindi ka mukhang Mita? I call her Mamita. Ba't hindi ka mukhang matanda? And then her answer was, well, I hope I remain like this. I'm reminded very much because of the many swinging lolas here in this Holy Mass. They don't look like they have 12 grandchildren. So thank you. Yes. Pope Francis established this feast January 31st, 2021 pa. He already announced it. He wanted very much this feast to be celebrated in honor of the elderly and grandparents. Because he himself was a Lola's boy. I don't know. I don't think I'll be ever Pope, but Pope Francis was a Lola's boy. And he spent so much time with his grandparents. In fact, now, I think he's 78 years old. He has in his breviary, you know, that prayer book, the priest pray, he has a note there. He has kept all the time a note from his grandmother. I wish I had kept a note myself. And I would like to quote the note which he quoted, the note that his grandmother has written. And I quote, it's a prayer. Her grandmother says, may my grandchildren, to whom I have given the best of my heart, have a long and happy life. And when you are in trouble, a look to Mary at the foot of the cross can be like a drop of balm on even the deepest and most painful wounds. Pope Francis kept this prayer, this sheet of paper as a little boy until now that he is a pope. Pope Francis calls grandparents heroic, a treasure. He calls them beautiful, and I call them cute. Growing up without grandparents is like a kite. Complete. You know, to make a kite is a very scientific thing. You just don't build anything like that. Otherwise, it will not fly, or it will always be a confusing flight. It has to be the proper length of the tail, the proper weight on the tail, the proper bending of the stick, and the kind of paper. But even then, what is important in the kite is the string. Without that string, this kite will just be adrift, carried away by all kinds of wind. And what is the string that keeps this kite grounded, this kite attached? It is not the parents. It is the grandparents. Without the grandparents, this kite, no matter how complete it is not grounded. And what does it mean it's not grounded? It will never be realistic. And what will be affected is the relationships of this person and the work relationship of this person. The Pope tells us, elderly grandparents have the ability to understand the most difficult situations. And when they pray for these difficult situations, their prayer is the strongest. Oh, wow. That is why, ano pala eh, pag hindi mo na talaga kaya as a parent, talagang nahihirapan ka, ayaw sumunod, a very effective thing, pakausap mo sa grandparents. They have a way of doing it. They have a way of saying it that is always acceptable. Idaan mo sa grandparents. Did you know that among royalty, the preferred successors are the grandchildren? The preferred successors, grandchildren. Because we are not in character and even in physical appearance, but most especially in inward characteristics, we are not our parents. We are our grandparents. Kaya nga there is this automatic affiliation. There is this automatic lightness of heart between grandchildren and grandparents. Because grandchildren are grandparents are the mellow version of the grandchildren. And so where parents sometimes cannot succeed, grandparents will succeed. Pope tells us we must be able to, the elderly must be able to advise younger generations on how to think about the future. When the Pope says that when young people access the elderly, there are 4 things that happen. They sink roots into their dreams. What does that mean? Their dreams become realities. They become more realistic about their dreams. Number 2, they can see the future. They're able to see the future because the elderly have been there, have seen it. Their visions, number 3, broadens. Mas lumalawak. Ito lang ang gusto nila para sa sarili nila. Ito lang ang plano nila para sa sarili nila. When they connect with their grandparents, with the elderly, it becomes even wider. And finally, they discover new paths that they were not aware of, which only grandparents are able to provide. That is why the purpose of Pope Francis, why he established every year from now on, it started today, every year, 4th Sunday of July is dedicated to the elderly and grandparents in order that there will be this encounter, in order to encourage, promote, establish a culture of encounter between the elderly and the young. To produce this link and to make this encounter and this connection really more explicit. Because whatever problems, the Pope, not me, whatever problems the young are facing, it's the elderly that have the solution. Grabe, what a statement. What a statement. The Pope gives himself as an example of how this moment of being a senior citizen, is a very precious moment. It's a very precious age. It's a very precious time. Pangit yung idea na, kayo papunta pa lang, ako pababa na. What? Ako, Father, I'm waning already. And so, it's not right for elderly people to be alive and already be dead because I'm retired. And the Pope gives himself an example. Sabi niya, look at me. I was called to become Pope when I have retired. Just when I have retired, that is the time I became qualified to become Pope. And so at the time when, he says, at the time when I thought I would just be doing, less things, I'm doing more things. So many new things. Kaya hindi totoo yung pababa na ako. That is so untrue. Ang theme song ng mga elderly is, we've only just begun. We've only just begun. Hindi yung, and now, the end is near. Excuse me. I close the final curtain. Buhay pa. Nakalibing na. The world needs the elderly to help build the world of tomorrow. The world in which we live together with children and grandchildren will be a better world once we are connected with our elderly. The Pope tells us that at the end of this pandemic, when we emerge from this storm, when we come out of the ark of Noah, from this flood, this new world will emerge beautiful if there is the example, the prayers, and the dreams of the elderly. So, this is what I'd like to say. Susing, Harry, Tom, Bob, Manolo, hindi pa kayo pwedeng mag-retire. Marami pa kayong kailangan gawin for Filipino society. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pause for a while and allow God to speak to us. Rico, you cannot retire. We need you when we emerge from the ark after this flood.